Hey guys, welcome back to another tipping video. This one is going to be for round 22, but before that, obviously I'm going to go through my round 21 calls and what happened over the round. It was a very interesting round, a very season-defining, a crucial round. But yeah, I'll start getting over the results. So, first game of the round, Melbourne versus Collingwood. What a win it was by the Pies, proving everyone wrong. Most people tipped Melbourne to win this game, even me. Obviously, I failed there. I'm going to be a lot quicker with my big calls. Melbourne to kick 10 or more goals than behind was a fail. My other big call for the Hawthorn versus Suns game was obviously Hawks to come back from 4 goals down at half time and win. GWS versus Essendon in a bit of a surprising game. Merritt and Redmond had combined for 65 touches and Merritt was tagged. Redmond had a shocker. Just terrible. Dockers, my big call was for 5 dogs mids to have 30 plus touches. Big fail. Geelong St Kilda, game I streamed. My big call was for no subs are made in the game. It was a fail. Dan Hanbury was subbed out with an ankle complaintment. My big call for the Richmond game is for the Tigers to have a lead in the fourth quarter but lose, and which was a fail. And then the last 3 games, all on the Sunday, were all incorrect. I tipped Buddy, Heaney, and Papley to combine for 12. They combined for 9. I tipped Brisbane have 3 or more players subbed out of the game. They had 2. And for the last game of the round, there were 5 or more lead changes in the game for West Coast versus Adelaide. There's only 3 lead changes, leaving me with a score of 0 out of 9 for my big calls, the first time this year. And it was just a shocker, really, and my tipping was absolutely terrible as well. I mean, I got the Brisbane one correct, the Sydney one correct, the Geelong one correct, and the Hawthorn one correct. Not too many that I'm proud of, to be honest. So that is probably my worst round of the season. I'm calling it now. That is my worst round of the season in terms of tips. But anyways, let's get straight into round 22. First game is going to be a very, very good one indeed. A very interesting one as well. St Kilda versus Brisbane in a huge Friday night blockbuster and a huge matchup, really. Both teams coming off interesting performances. I'll start with the Saints. The Saints are coming off a really, really irritating loss, I want to say, against Geelong. They were in the game in the first half. They weren't bad. The way they were using the footy was quite nice, and we haven't seen too much teams explore that against Geelong. I mean, obviously themselves doing it back in like round 10, but just couldn't quite get the result wanting their way. How good's Marcus Windhager, though, in his tagging role? Absolutely tagged Cam Guthrie out of the game. He had a decent first quarter, Guthrie, but otherwise he was just tagged out of that game. He was absolutely superb. Again, it was the third quarter that really blowed away. The Cats are just so good at it. And it also came at a cost. Dan Hanbury subbed out of the game with an ankle complaintment. That guy just can't get a good run of things in his Saints career. It could be the last game he ever played in as well. We get to find out. I'm sure we're going to hear in the next week or 2, though, if he retires or not. And the Lions, they were quite consistent again, like against Richmond, for most of this game. Just that last quarter, really, really poor, and nearly choked the game again. They were leading by 50-something in the third quarter time, and they only managed to win it by 5 goals. And that might seem like a lot to you guys, but it really felt like a 3-goal game at the end result. Carlton were quite good in that last quarter. And also a huge out, Marcus Adams, damaged rib. That's a massive loss for Brisbane. Their defence has just been so bad this season. And we know they want to score. They're a team that uses the ball to score. And I'm sure Carlton probably got a couple goals that they probably shouldn't have gotten in the game. And that's how they got them. Obviously, in the first 3 quarters, they missed some as well. So they were quite lucky, Brisbane. But they were pretty good for a majority of this game. Also, an injury complaintment to Archie. I'm not 100% sure what he did there, but he was subbed out quite early. So, yeah. Very, very interesting game, this one, but I'm just going to tip the Lions. If it was at any other venue, then at the Gabba, then I reckon Brisbane would win comfortably. But it's at Marvel. The Saints played decently at Marvel. Lions by 7 points. My big call, Lions come back from behind at quarter time and win the game. So I think they'll win. I think St Kilda will win the first quarter, pretty much, is what I'm trying to say. And then we've got the big rivalry. The Dogs taking on the Giants. Last time these two teams met, it was a shootout at Giant Stadium. This time, however, I don't think it's going to be quite that good. Let's start with the Giants, though. What a win it was against the Bombers. I don't think anyone saw this coming. Jesse Hogan starred with a 4-goal performance. Harry Himmelberg playing forward. He still managed to get a good 20 touches. He was also very good. Good to see veterans Whitfield and Cornelio, Kelly and Jacob Hopper all having good games, and they really standed up the Giants mids. They were quite good in that game. And the Dogs, yeah, good to see Sam Darcy make his debut, but nothing really too special happening in the game against the Dockers. They weren't bad. They just weren't good enough to run them out in the end. And yeah, very, very disappointing by the Dogs. I mean, I feel like they've been okay in the last couple of weeks. Like they haven't been bad. They've been good, but not good enough. And they're in a tough position for finals. Like they do have some nice matchups against the Giants at Marvel, and obviously the tougher one, the Hawks down in Tassie. Should be an interesting game, but the Dogs at Marvel for me by 35 points. My big call, macrae and treloar back to their best. They combined for 60 touches and a goal, with treloar also to be moved back in the middle. I reckon he'll get that. And then the other game on the Saturday, huge game this one will be. Adelaide taking on the Kangaroos. Adelaide Oval. This could be a bloodbath. And I'm saying this in a bit of a shockman. Adelaide, I did not see this coming against West Coast. That's 2 games now where I haven't tipped them to win. I haven't jumped on the Crows, but they've proven me wrong. They've been very good. Mind you, I'm not sure this Ben Keys playing forward tagging role on defenders is working. It worked against Adam Sard. I don't really know why they did it against West Coast, but he was absolutely shocking. That's the only thing I can really see about Adelaide. But they want to win, Adelaide. The way they're using the ball, they're just proving that they want to win, and the way they're getting it to their forwards. If they keep this up, Adelaide, I could see them having a good season next year with another year into players like Shane McAdam, Elliot Himmelberg, Darcy Fogarty, Harry Schonberg, even Josh Rashilli, all players that are starting to shine for the club. And yeah, they were all superb on the weekend. Obviously, Josh Rashilli didn't play, but I've still thrown him in there in the mix. And the big question was, why didn't Tex Walker not have an impact? He only kicked the 1 goal. Darcy Fogarty was the player who stepped up. 3 goals. Very, very good performance by him. North Melbourne, not too much to say about them, except for Nick Larkey. Obviously wasn't the biggest bag of the round, but still a very, very big bag, and 7 goals. Haven't really seen him have a huge impact in big games this season. Happened against West Coast, Collingwood and Sydney. And they're not an easy team to kick goals against Sydney. And North Melbourne got quite a high score against Sydney. Maybe a little bit of a concern for the Swans there, but nothing too serious. Nick Larkey was the only thing you could really take out of that one with 7 goals. The Crows to win this by a big margin, 59 points. And my big call, seeming, if I went for this last week, it would have been an absolute shock call. But I'm going for it this week. Walker to kick 6 goals or more. And the big game, 4:30. This one is going to be a huge game. Gold Coast Suns taking on Geelong at Metricon. I cannot believe I'm going to do this. I'm going to get to it in a minute, but the Suns, yeah, they're coming off a disappointing loss in Tassie against the Hawks. I mean, they probably played a good 1 quarter, I'd say, of good football, the Suns. They just weren't competitive enough in this game, and they now cannot play finals, and they're in jeopardy of not actually doing better than their previous season, their previous best season of wins. They're in 9, and I doubt they'll lose to North in the last round of the season, but I could see an upset going this way. But the Suns, yeah, they didn't move the footy that well. In that game. I was watching this game and they just weren't that good, the Suns. And yeah, they need a better game. And Marby Chol was kept to no goals as well. And Took Miller was tagged. So yeah, their stars really didn't shine in this one. They've got to shine against Geelong. They need a response. And Geelong just doing what they do best against the Saints. This time adding a big goal. Another goal kicker. Isaac Smith kicked free. Who would have thought he'd be kicking a bag? And he was quite good. And obviously a bit of injury scare with obviously Patrick Dangerfield being out, and they should maybe retain him this week. Joe Selwood and Blitzers should be back from being managed. Rowan returning from concussion. Yeah, I'm not too sure about this one because honestly, I thought of 3 different big calls in this one. But the one I'm going to go with is a bit interesting. But this is probably the bolder call. Gold Coast to win this game by 5 points in the upset of the season at their home deck. Their home deck is going to go nuts. And well, when you look at this, my big call. I mean, my other big call was either a combined of 155 points is scored, or no, it was no team like combined the scores won't go over 155. But when you look at my big call that I've selected, that just won't happen because I've gone Hawkins and Cameron to combine for 10 goals. They do not do good at the moment. The Suns' defence, they've been absolutely shocking. That's why I'm going with that call. Probably my safest bet. And the big game at the G, Melbourne taking on Carlton. Both teams, yeah, I don't know what happened to them last week. Carlton, for instance, yeah, they just weren't good today against the Lions. Yeah, they just didn't find the click in the first half, and their third quarter they found something. Even late in the second quarter, they found something. They just couldn't quite capitalise. When they did in the fourth quarter, it was just a little bit too late. Brisbane are lucky they had such a good start, 30-1 in the first quarter. Yeah, a little bit of an injury scare though to Jack Martin though, with a injury, and Durden obviously replacing him, kicked that ripping goal. They were very good in that last quarter, Carlton. Though, I noticed they've been very good defensively. Obviously, they weren't against Brisbane, but over in the recent weeks, they've been very, very good defensively. They need to connect their forwards though, and Melbourne. Well, not too much to say. They were quite good against Collingwood, well, us, and they just couldn't quite kick that 1 or 2 goals in that third quarter, and even in that fourth to really put us to bed. And we made them pay for the first time this season. I think we made a team pay. We were quite accurate, and we just turned everything into goals. Yeah, very unfortunate for Melbourne. They weren't bad, but obviously they weren't great. Seemingly a bit Freo over in the West. People expected more from them, and they didn't get up. But I reckon they'll get up nicely here in this game by 4 goals, 24 points. My big call, Dees to win the tackle count by 15 or more. I reckon they're, so not 15 or more, I meant 30 or more. I reckon they're going to be ferocious in this game after a big loss to Collingwood. And next is the big derby, Freo taking on the Eagles. I'll start with the Eagles. Both teams coming off bad losses. I mean, West Coast obviously wasn't as bad. So Freo, no, they won. But West Coast, they were quite good in this game, I want to say, against Adelaide. They proved me right. They challenged. They were quite good. They just weren't good enough, and that's the problem with West Coast in recent weeks. They've been good, but they haven't been good enough. JK, mate, legend, going out, 8 goals, final game. Be very interesting to see how they handle without JK in these last 2 games, and obviously next season. I'm sure they're going to miss him, take a little while to get used to life without him. He was absolutely superb. Not too much else to say, though, about the Eagles at the moment. I don't think they're going to get too close to beating Freo at Optus. Their home ground, Freo. They're locked in for finals. They're going to be hungry for this game, I reckon. They were quite good against the Dockers. They had a couple of forwards that stood out. Rory Lobb and Michael Frederick. They were both very nice, and Griffin Logue also superb. And he's also going to be involved in my big call for this one. Freo by 37 points. My big call, lobb and logue to combine for 5 or more goals. And next, a big game on Sunday. In my opinion, going to be game of the round. Richmond taking on Hawthorn. This is going to be an insane game. I mean, there's going to be 3 for me. Gold Coast v Geelong, Richmond Hawthorn, and then the next game, of course, which we'll get to in a minute. But this one's going to be huge. Ben McAvoy coming off a massive 250th game. Big win for the Hawks down in Tassie. They were quite good. They weren't good in that last quarter, I must admit, but they were pretty good for most of that game. How good's Magnus going at the moment, though? Every single player he picks up, he does so good. He may go to Cochin in this one, though, because Trent Cochin was absolutely insane. The thing is, Magnus can play forward. So does he go on Daniel Rioli, who, in my opinion, I know he didn't have the most disposals, but that's the best game I've seen Daniel Rioli play. Kicked 2 goals as a defender. He was just absolutely superb. Maurice Rioli, his uncle as well, was very, very good. Trent Cochin back to his best. He will play next season. There is no doubt. He's ready to go for another season, Trent Cochin. Lock him in. And lock Richmond in too. Shai Bolton, again, very, very good performance. Though 4 goals, 4. Could have had a bag in this one. Shai Bolton still was very good though. Tom Lynch as well kicked 4. And they were just too good for Port Adelaide. Yeah, this one's going to be a thriller, but Richmond just by 2 points. My big call, Hawks are in front for more of the game. More than half of the game, sorry. And then my big call was that. It's a very interesting big call, that one. And then the big game. I don't know which one's going to be game of the round, but I'll be streaming this one. Sydney taking on Collingwood in a huge game at the SCG. A little bit concerning for the Swans, I want to say. I'm not brave enough to tip us, but there is a little bit of a concern with their defence. I gave up a score of 88 points against North Melbourne, and they've had 2 shockers against North this season. I mean, they were obviously quite good. They had so many goal kickers. Logan McDonald kicked 2. He was great on return. Buddy kicked 4. Papley kicked 3. Heaney kicked 2. Reed kicked 2. You know, those 3 players, they just was so close to actually getting that big call correct. I think it was the closest one of the round, believe it or not. And that was the hardest one to happen. So it just shows you how well I did in my big calls for this game. Chad Warner was also outstanding with I think a 30 disposal effort, 3 goals. Luke Parker probably had his best game this season. They've been very good, the Swans. Collingwood also very, very good against Melbourne. Jack Crisp, I thought that his game was finally good to see him play a good one for a little while. Hoskin Elliott subbed out, a little bit concerning. Hopefully he is okay to play this one. If not, maybe the next against Carlton. Ash Johnson, Jamie Elliott combined for 8 goals. We really took our chances. We moved the ball quite well. We had our pressure up in the second half. We're going to have to take our full pressure, though, against the Swans. In a thriller, Sydney by 4 points. My big call, the lead never goes beyond 18 or more in a very, very close game. And then the last game of the round, in my opinion, isn't going to be that great. I know people are saying good things about this one, but it's not going to be that great, to be honest. It's going to be a low-scoring slump, I reckon. Essendon taking on Port Adelaide. Everyone would think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think the opposite. I reckon both teams are going to shut this one into a defensive option. I mean, the Bombers, they tried doing that against the Giants. I noticed it. They just couldn't quite get it done in the end, the Bombers. And then they were just better in the fourth quarter. The Giants pulled away. Mac Wealthy, though, 4 goals. He was very, very good. They tried to play a bit more safer, a bit defensively, the Bombers. They did not work at all. Zach Merritt also tagged out of it. Couldn't have a big influence. And Port Adelaide, they just weren't good enough against Richmond. And that's the story of their season, really, Port Adelaide. They just haven't been good enough in their last encounters. And that's probably why they're missing out in the finals. I mean, obviously because of that 0-5 start, but also just not being good enough to take on those teams that you'd probably expect to win last year. And they've really, really dropped off because of that. And despite Essendon having a big loss to GWS, I reckon they'll get back on the winners list here in a comfortable game. Essendon by 5 goals, 30 points. A little bit risky, though, to go with my big call of having a total of 150 points scored or less in this one, because I reckon it's going to be like a score of like 70 to I reckon there'll be like an 80 to a 50 or something. Like, it's gonna be like that. It's not gonna be a fun one to watch. But I'm gonna go with a bit of a different one. Draper to have 30 or more hitouts up against an easy target in Teakle, and kicks 2 goals. So yeah, that's the round. A fun round for me, totally. Yeah, it was absolutely shocking for my tips. Hopefully we can do better this week, though, and hopefully the Pies can win against the Swans. I'll see you guys next time.